From the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
After he's talking about how Cooper looked peaceful and his eyes were closed and it just, you know, looked like he's sleeping, he goes, I dreaded how he would look.
Dreaded past tense.
As in past tense.
Did you uncover anything and what he was doing during that day while his child was out in the car?
He was having up to 6 different conversations with different women.
And these conversations he was having with these females, were these, of what nature were they?
The most common term would be sexting.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. New news to report in this case today, and joining us is Adam Thompson, senior partner and owner of the law office of Adam Thompson and syndicated talk show host. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you, Steve.
And welcome aboard. Okay, so tell me, first of all, the news that broke today is toxicology reports are in on the little boy, and there were no drugs in his system. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing as far as the little boy, because, you know, they said there were scratches, he had abrasions on the back of his head, and the testimony indicated that he most likely, while trying to get out or just as a reaction to the heat and broiling to death, his head might have been going back and forth. You can't even imagine it. So maybe some kind of drug would have lessened the pain. But legally, does this hurt or help the father?
Well, obviously, if there was medication or some kind of sedation found in the baby's system, they would say, obviously, he drugged him so the kid would just lay there and bake inside the car. But I don't think because it came back negative that it necessarily hurts the prosecution's case, because if the father was researching how to kill a baby inside a car, no father is then going to sedate the kid, because that would just prove that he researched it and then took an extra step. You have an overt act. So I think they're not going to really have any harm done by this. In fact, they may say maybe this furthers his planning it because he didn't do that.
I mean, I've never seen anything so, well, I can't say I've never seen anything so sinister, because we've heard of a lot of horrific crimes over the many years that you and I have both been on this earth. But there's nothing more sinister than killing a child, your own child, and purposely killing a child, if that's what he did. But then, I don't know, the utter stupidity to think that the paper trail, or the internet trail in this case, the social media trail, the things he did, the actions he took, the things he said to his wife said to him, that this wasn't going to land him and maybe, I'll ask you this later, her, in legal hot water? I don't get it.
It amazes me in this day and age how advanced technology is. Everybody at this point should know emails are going to be searched, cell phones are going to be searched, text messages, anything you do, cameras in parking lots showing where you go when, even your cars and your phones are tracked, what routes you're driving. So for him to think that his research of how to kill a baby, how to survive in prison, you know, wasn't
how to live a childless life. Right.
That wouldn't be discovered is beyond me.
And the wife, let's get to the wife.
Sure.
She hasn't been charged. Legally speaking, going to the prison and saying, the first thing she says when she sees her husband is, "Did you say too much?" At the funeral, saying she wouldn't bring the kid back, that's not legally indicting, I guess. And saying when she gets to the school and the kid's not there, oh, he must have left him in the car. Tell me what from a legal perspective.
Those are pretty damning. First of all, the fact, you always look at consciousness of somebody. When someone arrives and your child just died, you would think the conversation between the husband and wife when they see each other is going to be remorsefulness about the child being gone. And the first words you're uttering, or close to the first words, are, "Hey, did you say too much?"
Yeah.
That kind of lets the cat out of the bag, unless you don't use common sense, Steve.
What happened?
Right. Oh, my God, what were you thinking?
Or crying into each other's arms.
Did you say too much? That just looks terrible. The other thing,
is it legally actionable?
Sure, because a prosecutor can argue that shows consciousness of guilt. Listen, when you're a juror and you're sitting on the case, you don't leave your common sense outside in the street. You're bringing in the courtroom with you and analyze facts. What does that represent to you? Your gut reaction that you just said is how most jurors are going to react. That's what you said to him when you saw him. You didn't say, "Oh my God, our child's dead." You said too much? That just is horrible. The other thing that you brought up that's really monumental to me
is when she went to the school.
When she's at the school and he says he must have left him in the car, what would make your brain trigger that as the first response, as if it wasn't pre-thought out? Oh my God, let me make sure everybody hears this. Maybe He left them in the car.
And then they say to her, no, there are a million other explanations. And she says, reportedly, no, he left them in the car.
That's... Usually where there's smoke, there's fire.
Right, so,
doesn't prove anything on its face, but when you couple them all together with the other actions,
very, damning circumstantial.
A lot of sinister activity starts surfacing.
So if you're the prosecution here and you're the state, are you talking to her yet? Are you keeping a close tab on her that she doesn't run away? Are you going to eventually play her off him, let her give information and give her a lesser charge to rat out on him, or how do you play this?
Well, that's a great question, because right now, obviously, they have a united front. That whole dog and pony show in the church where she says, you're the greatest dad ever, everybody stand and applaud. I wonder if she went back to the church now and gave that same speech. They knew he was sexing with 6 or 7 other girls. Right, are they going to even show up, let alone stand and applaud? So that shows what a rouge that was, and that there was maybe some discussion before they did any of this. But getting back to that, the prosecution at this point has to be thinking she's involved. She looked up the same materials on the internet, and those reactions and comments when she first was made aware, they don't sit well. Whether or not they want to expand it to her and make it both of them, we'll yet to see. But definitely against him, they're going to have a pretty strong case going forward.
Will they be able to make him, and it's all premature, but will they be able to make him into a sympathetic figure at all?
I think at this point, with everything that's come out, that while his son is baking to death inside a car, he's having 5 or 6 different messages.
Will that be allowed into court? The
Absolutely, because what was his state of mind? What were you doing that you forgot your kid was out in the car? If I'm a prosecutor, I'm screaming to get that in. You were more concerned hooking up with other women than your kid baking in a car? That was on your mind at work?
Not to mention pulling an Anthony Weiner and sending it to allegedly a 16 or 17-year-old girl.
Absolutely. It's just disgusting. So sympathy's not going to be something on his side in court.
Yeah, well, it's going to be very interesting. What's the timetable? What's next here? He has to be indicted by a grand jury? Right.
Well, the case will have to go forward. There'll be grand jury presentations, and then after that, it'll just be not guilty pleas at this point, and then it'll just it'll be a while.
And we got 30 seconds. Why then did they bring it to a hearing, a trial hearing, if they didn't give it to a grand jury yet? Don't they usually go right to a grand jury, like here in New York?
Well, they do it different ways in different states.
But they're doing both here.
Right. Sometimes they do a probable cause hearing to see if there's any foundation to it, given to the fact that it might have been accidental. But given the evidence at that.
And did they give up too much evidence to prosecution or no?
I don't think so. No. You want to be able to make sure the case moves forward, and you're going to keep them in on bail.
Right, no bail. Hey, great to see you.
Always a pleasure,
Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much. All right, folks, we'll be back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show after the break. I got to tell you, I just go back to some of the CNN anchors saying there, but for the grace of God go I. Hasn't he suffered enough? Then they find out the truth. It's a very telling case. We're coming back.